A heavy mist hangs over the English Channel as a fleet of flat-bottomed transport vessels moves across the water. The sound of engines is a steady hum against the rhythmic movement of the waves. On the decks, soldiers in green wool uniforms check the mechanisms of their bolt-action rifles and secure the straps of their canvas packs. The coastline of France appears as a dark, jagged line on the horizon under a gray sky. As the vessels approach the shore, the water becomes shallow and the boats begin to pitch. The front ramps lower into the surf. Men step into the cold water, holding their weapons above their heads. They move toward the beach, navigating through jagged iron obstacles and coiled wire. From the bluffs above, flashes of light indicate the position of defensive bunkers. Sand kicks up in small plumes around the advancing infantry. The soldiers reach a concrete seawall and crouch behind the barrier. One individual carries a long metal tube packed with explosives and places it against a section of barbed wire. A muffled percussion follows, creating a gap in the perimeter. The infantry moves through the opening and begins a slow ascent of the steep, grassy dunes. They move in short bursts of speed, dropping to the ground at regular intervals. Small groups reach the perimeter of a circular concrete fortification. One soldier pulls a pin from a metal canister and tosses it through a narrow observation slit. A dull thud echoes from within the structure, followed by a plume of gray smoke. The soldiers enter the bunker through the rear steel door. They move through the narrow corridors, clearing each room systematically. Outside, the primary defensive battery is neutralized as the remaining crew members raise their hands. The morning light reveals a landscape of hedgerows and narrow sunken lanes. Infantry squads move in staggered files along the drainage ditches flanking the roads. They maintain a distance of 5 meters between each man. To the left, a light tank maneuvers through a gap in a stone wall, its treads crushing the dry vegetation. The unit reaches the outskirts of a small village where the stone houses remain intact despite the previous night's bombardment. Scouts move forward to check the corners of the main intersection. They signal for the rest of the platoon to advance. In the center of the village, a fountain has been damaged by shell fragments and water pools on the cobblestones. A sudden burst of fire comes from a second-story window of a brick building. The soldiers immediately move to the ground or seek cover behind the stone foundations of the houses. A machine gun crew sets up a tripod behind a low wall and returns fire toward the upper floor. While the suppression fire continues, a small team moves through the back gardens of the adjacent properties. They climb a wooden fence and enter the target building through a cellar door. Inside, the sound of boots on floorboards occurs above them. The team ascends the stairs. A series of controlled shots are heard. The firing from the windows ceases. A white cloth is hung from the frame, and 3 opposing soldiers emerge into the street with their hands behind their heads. The platoon establishes a temporary command post in the village square. Map cases are opened on a wooden table taken from a nearby cafe. Officers mark positions with grease pencils on acetate overlays. To the east, the sound of heavy engines indicates the arrival of a motorized battalion. Jeeps equipped with radio sets park near the church steeple, which is now being used as an observation post. Signal corpsmen string telephone wire along the tops of existing fence posts to connect the village to the beachhead headquarters. Medics set up a triage station in the church nave, laying out stretchers on the stone floor. The perimeter is reinforced with sandbags and light anti-tank guns as the sun reaches its zenith. Heavy clouds obscure the moon as the battalion approaches the final objective, a reinforced railway bridge spanning a deep river valley. The structure is built of blackened steel and supported by massive granite pillars. Small detachments move silently through the tall grass toward the bridgehead. They carry satchel charges and wire cutters. On the northern side, a guard tower is visible, illuminated by a single rotating searchlight. The infantry occupies the tree line, positioning 2 heavy machine guns to cover the length of the tracks. A whistle sounds, and the units advance toward the bridge supports in a synchronized movement. The engagement begins with a concentrated volley of mortar shells landing on the bridge's defensive positions. Under the cover of smoke, engineers crawl along the iron girders. They use thick adhesive tape to secure blocks of explosive material to the primary structural joints. On the far side of the river, an armored car attempts to cross the bridge but is struck by a rocket-propelled grenade. The vehicle stalls and begins to burn, creating a localized barrier. The infantry conducts a final sweep of the guard posts, clearing the bunkers with grenades and rapid rifle fire. Once the area is verified as clear, the engineers spool out rolls of detonation cord, retreating to a safe distance behind a concrete embankment. A series of sharp reports follows as the demolition charges trigger. The central span of the bridge twists and collapses into the river below. Iron girders groan and snap, sending a spray of water high into the air. The primary supply route is severed. At dawn, a flare is fired into the sky, signaling the successful completion of the mission. The battalion begins to withdraw toward the village, leaving a small observation post to monitor the riverbank. Behind them, the sounds of the front line drift further into the distance. The soldiers maintain their formation, moving back through the fields as the first light of day touches the valley floor.